Before we dive into this story of betrayal and manipulation, hit that like button if you want to support this channel. It's just a simple click for you, but it means the world to me. It was a Thursday afternoon. I wasn't supposed to be home, my work trip got canceled last minute, and instead of flying across the country, I found myself in a cab headed back to my own driveway, exhausted but quietly excited to surprise my wife. Claire always said she missed me most on business trips. Said she hated sleeping alone, so I figured why not surprise her. I didn't call, didn't text, just wanted to see that stunned smile when I walked in. But what I saw when I arrived, it burned into my memory like a branding iron. There was a car parked 2 houses down, a luxury sedan I haven't seen before. Out walked a man I hadn't seen in years, tall, mid-50s, gray hair, looked like he just stepped off the cover of some university brochure. Professor Raymond Bell, Claire's old college mentor. The man she used to talk about in passing, how inspiring he was, how much he helped her through her senior thesis. I watched from behind the edge of our garden wall. He didn't see me, but I saw everything. He looked both ways like a man trying not to get caught, straightened his coat, fixed his collar, and then he walked off, calm, measured, like nothing happened. Something snapped inside me. I rushed up to the door. My hands were shaking. I didn't even know what I'd say. I opened it quietly. No music, no TV, just silence. And then, the soft sound of footsteps upstairs. Turned the corner and there she was. Claire, wrapped in nothing but a white towel, her hair still wet, but she wasn't coming from the bathroom. She stopped cold when she saw me. Her eyes went wide like I was a ghost. She opened her mouth but no words came out, just silence. I asked her, "Was that him?" She hesitated, looked away, tried to act confused, but I saw the guilt written across her face like graffiti. That's when I knew. This wasn't some weird coincidence. He hadn't come by to borrow a book or catch up on campus gossip. He'd just slept with my wife, in my house, in our bed. I didn't know what to say, didn't know whether to scream or collapse, but I wasn't going to walk away. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. What happened next? Let's just say I made sure everyone found out who they really were. And even after that, what she did nearly destroyed me again. I followed Claire upstairs. Every step felt heavier than the last, like the weight of what I'd just seen was trying to crush me before I even got the truth out of her. She tried to walk past me, brushing it off like I'd caught her in some harmless misunderstanding. "You got it all wrong," she said, not even meeting my eyes. That sentence, "You got it all wrong." Is that a universal cheat code people use when they get caught doing the worst thing imaginable? Because let me tell you, it was exactly what it looked like. I asked her again, slower this time, keeping my voice calm. "Was that Professor Bell? Why was he in our house? Why are you in a towel?" She started pacing. She wasn't crying. Not yet, just scrambling to find the version of the truth that would make me walk away quietly. She said he stopped by to drop off something, some old academic papers, she claimed, said she spilled coffee on her shirt, and went upstairs to change, and that was it. I stared at her. She knew I wasn't buying it. "Claire, you're shaking," I said. "Your hair's wet." "He just walked out of our house, not a coffee shop. You weren't expecting me home, were you?" That's when it cracked. Her voice trembled, and she collapsed onto the edge of the bed, hands over her face, shoulders shaking. Finally, she whispered it. It wasn't supposed to go on this long. My blood ran cold. I asked, "How long?" She didn't want to answer, but I stood there until she did. 2 years. 2 years of sneaking around, lying while I paid the bills, built her a future, supported her through job interviews and mental breakdowns. She said it started in college. He was her senior professor, held her final grade in his hands. He told her she was brilliant, but not quite good enough without help. He invited her to his office, told her how competitive the program was, how a little flexibility could open doors, and she gave in. She said she was young, confused, thought he actually cared. But even after college, when grades didn't matter anymore, she kept seeing him. They met during the day, at hotels, in his office, in our home while I was away. She claimed he brainwashed her, made her feel like she owed him, like he was the only one who truly understood her. Said she was scared to stop. I didn't say anything for a long time. I just stood there, looking at the woman I thought I knew, and realizing I didn't know her at all. But I wasn't going to let this end with apologies. I was going to drag both of them into the light. No more secrets. No more second chances. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat in the living room, staring at nothing. Claire stayed locked in the bedroom, sobbing behind the closed door. But I wasn't interested in her tears. Not anymore. 2 years of lies, and I was supposed to believe she was manipulated. Maybe at first. But 2 years? That's not brainwashing, that's choice. The more I thought about it, the more furious I became. Not just with her, but with him, Raymond Bell. The tenured, smug, untouchable, intellectual predator who thought he could sleep with his students and walk away clean. He used his authority to groom her, and then kept using that same power to own her for years. But he made one mistake. He used my house. So I did what any betrayed husband with a conscience would do. I told Claire to get dressed. No excuses, no lies. We were going to the university, and she was going to help me end this. She protested, cried, tried to convince me it would ruin both of their lives. I said, "Good, that's the idea." I drove her in silence. The university campus looked the same as it did years ago when we used to visit for alumni events, but now it felt different, tainted. We walked into the administrative building and headed straight for the main lecture hall. Had already checked the schedule online. There was a weekly department meeting. Faculty only, which meant he'd be in there. Claire was shaking by the time we reached the door, but I opened it wide and stepped inside anyway. 10 professors turned their heads, and there he was, Raymond Bell, sitting at the head of the table sipping coffee. When he saw me and Claire, the color drained from his face like someone had pulled the plug. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I simply said, "This man has been having an affair with my wife. It started when she was his student, when he had full authority over her grades and academic standing. This abuse of power has continued for 2 years, and it happened inside this university." The room went silent. Claire stood there, frozen in place. Raymond stammered, "This is absurd. He has no proof, and this is a personal matter." But I already had proof in my hand, emails, WhatsApp messages that I copied from Claire's phone just before we left home. I dropped it on the table like a gavel. "If your university doesn't handle this internally, I'll take it to the press myself." That was the moment he knew it was over. The mask cracked. I saw panic in his eyes. He was fired the next week, tenure revoked, reputation destroyed. But that was just the beginning, because he didn't go down alone. And what came next would almost destroy us all. When the university announced Raymond Bell's termination, the entire academic department went into lockdown mode. Emails were recalled. Statements were issued. The dean quietly offered no comment to faculty whispers. But the story spread. Like wildfire. Students gossiped in hallways, alumni forums lit up, and Claire, she couldn't go anywhere without feeling the heat. She thought the worst was behind us. She thought public shame was the price they'd pay, and we could move on. But Raymond wasn't done. Not by a long shot. 2 weeks after his termination, a letter showed up at our doorstep, registered mail, legal seal. Raymond Bell, a former tenured professor, was suing us, not just Claire. Me Too, defamation, career sabotage, emotional distress, and reputational damage. He claimed we'd misrepresented the nature of a consensual relationship, that I had used personal grievances to destroy his livelihood. He wanted money, 6 figures for damages. Claire went pale reading the letter. She collapsed on the couch, hands trembling. "This is my fault," she whispered. "I let him control me again. I should have stopped seeing him years ago." But her regret wasn't fixing anything. Now we were in legal hell because of her affair. I met with a lawyer the next day. Thank God I had kept everything. The emails, hotel confirmations, the receipts and timelines. Every single piece of evidence that painted the full picture: a man in power abusing his position, a woman trapped in emotional debt. The lawyer reviewed the file and said, "He doesn't have a case. If anything, you should be suing him." Still, that didn't stop Raymond from trying to bleed us. He went on podcasts anonymously, framing himself as the victim of a jealous husband and a vindictive woman who twisted history to get revenge. He even tried to rally a few former colleagues, people who no doubt owed him favors, but no one wanted to go down with him. And yet, even with the truth on our side, we had to go through months of legal defense, thousands in attorney fees, time, energy, stress. Claire quit her job. She couldn't handle the whispers. She spiraled emotionally, flipping between guilt, self-pity, and hollow apologies. And me? I started asking myself the hard question, why am I still here? She betrayed me for 2 years, and now her mistake had dragged us into court. She said she was brainwashed, but at what point does brainwashing become choice? And just when I thought it couldn't get worse, I found out she was still messaging him secretly through an anonymous email address. She told him she was sorry for ruining his life, that she never meant to hurt him. After all that, after court exposure, everything I sacrificed to protect her, she still pitied him. That's when something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to be her savior anymore. Not after what came next. If you have been enjoying the story so far, hit that like button to help more people find this story. The day I found those secret emails, I didn't confront her right away. I just watched. Waited. I needed to see how far she'd go, and sure enough, she didn't disappoint. She used a hidden email alias. There it was, message after message to Raymond. No anger, no regret. Just apologies. I never meant to ruin your life. They made me say things in therapy. You were the only one who ever really understood me. That last line? That one broke me. I had stayed through humiliation, through therapy. I stood by her when I should have walked, and here she was, still, carrying a torch for the man who seduced her when she was young, dumb, and desperate for validation. I snapped screenshots of everything, sent them to my lawyer, just in case, and then I confronted her. She cried, of course, swore it wasn't real, said she was just processing guilt, said I was overreacting. Overreacting? After she destroyed our marriage twice. I told her to leave, right then and there. No yelling, no theatrics, just go. She asked me, "Where will I go?" I said, "Not my problem." And I meant it. She packed a bag, but before leaving she hit me with one last poisonous seed. "You never forgave me. That's why this never worked. You made me feel like a prisoner in my own home." That was her final rewrite of the truth. I was the problem now. Not the affair, not the lying, not the court battle. Me. She moved out the next morning. I thought it was over. But then she ran to Raymond. Yep, you heard that right. The man who manipulated her as a student, who dragged us into court to squeeze us for money. That's the man she ran to. And I watched from a distance as their fairy tale turned to filth, because Raymond didn't want love. He wanted control. And now that she wasn't young, scared, and easy to influence, he had no use for her. Raymond told her she owed him her loyalty for what he'd lost, and she clung harder. She gave up everything for him, her job, her marriage, her reputation. And he gave her nothing in return. Soon she was calling me again. Voicemails full of tears. I made a mistake. You were the only man who ever truly loved me. Please talk to me, please. But I was already gone, emotionally, mentally gone. And while her and Raymond slowly turned on each other in their new little hell, I started to heal. Not for her. Not for revenge. For me. And the best part, her nightmare was just getting started. Her name had already been dragged through the mud in quiet academic circles. No one would say it outright, but the whispers never stopped. The university issued a statement distancing itself from both of them. Claire's professional network? Gone. Job offers? Dry. Even volunteer organizations didn't want the baggage. But the worst part? She still believed Raymond would protect her. She imagined they'd start over. New city, fresh jobs, maybe even marriage. But Raymond? He was a man used to power, not partnership. And once Claire moved into his home, the mask slipped. He belittled her, controlled everything, from what she wore to when she could use his car. He never let her forget what she cost him. You owe me your life, he said once, according to one of her tear-soaked voicemails. I gave up everything for you. But here's the irony. He didn't lose everything because of Claire. He lost it because of me. Because I refused to stay quiet. Because I showed the world who he really was. And now that the power dynamic had flipped, Claire became his victim again. Only this time, without the excuse of youth or naivety. Then came the final blow. Raymond was hit with a civil misconduct investigation by a former student. Apparently, Claire wasn't his only favorite. A second woman, now a professional, filed a formal complaint that reignited the fire. The university couldn't ignore it now, and the new investigation reopened everything. Journalists got wind of the story. Podcasts picked it up. The man who once guest lectured at global symposiums now had his name trending for all the wrong reasons. Sponsors dropped him. Consulting gigs vanished. His publisher pulled a book deal. And Claire? She was collateral damage again. She got dragged into the headlines, paparazzi photos of her entering his apartment, tabloid headlines calling her the professor's mistress. She tried to play the victim, but no one bought it anymore. And it got worse. A former friend of Claire's posted leaked screenshots from years ago, messages where Claire bragged about how Raymond still chased her like a puppy, even after she graduated. Any remaining sympathy? Gone. Even her family stopped returning her calls. And in the midst of all that, I was doing all right. I got promoted, started dating again. Slowly but meaningfully. And for the first time in years, I could sleep without anxiety clawing at my chest. One day, Claire showed up at my office. Puffy eyes, pale skin, begging for one last chance. I walked past her like she was invisible. Because to me, she was. And Raymond? Well, let's just say the next act didn't improve for him. Claire kept spiraling, jobless, reputation in ruins, and now abandoned by the man she threw everything away for. Raymond's misconduct investigation grew teeth. More former students came forward. Anonymous at first, allegations of coercion, favoritism for grades, and personal invitations to private research dinners. He denied everything, of course, but the patterns were undeniable. Universities started pulling his published research for ethics reviews. An alumni group started a petition to revoke his tenure titles posthumously. But here's where it gets dark. Raymond, desperate to salvage any ounce of control, made a documentary-style video on YouTube, a self-produced, poorly lit rant where he painted himself as the real victim. Destroyed by a woman who begged for his attention. He even showed a cropped photo of Claire, crying, pleading, trying to win back his favor. He used her humiliation as proof that she was obsessed, unstable. It backfired. Massively. The video got flagged, mocked, and used as a case study in every PR firm's What Not to Do seminar. Even his lawyer quit. And Claire? She had nothing left. Her name was tainted. Her face was everywhere. For all the wrong reasons. Even former classmates who once sympathized now distanced themselves completely. Then I got the call. It was her mother. "She's in the hospital," she said, voice shaking. They found her collapsed outside her apartment. Malnourished. Alone. I drove there. Not for her, but for closure. She was a shadow of who she used to be, eyes sunken, hair brittle. Hooked up to IVs like her body was trying to catch up on all the punishment her mind had endured. She looked up at me and whispered, "I ruined everything, didn't I?" I didn't answer. There was nothing left to say. Because yes, she did. She ruined her marriage. She chose betrayal, not once, but twice. And worst of all, she chose to protect the man who used her, over the man who once loved her unconditionally. As I stood there, watching her drift off to sleep, I realized something. Forgiveness doesn't always mean reconnection. Sometimes it just means letting go without revenge. But Raymond? He wasn't so lucky. Just weeks later, his apartment was raided by federal investigators. Turns out he wasn't just manipulating students. He was also falsifying data in his research grants. Federal charges followed. Fraud. Ethics violations. Abuse of power. He was arrested. Perp walked on national television. A man who once held the minds of the next generation in his hands, now shackled like the predator he truly was. And Claire. She disappeared from public life. Last I heard, she was living in a small rural town under her maiden name, working nights at a gas station. No friends, no family, no Raymond, just the echo of choices she'll never outrun. It's been almost 2 years since the day I saw Raymond walking out of my home. 2 years since I watched the woman I loved fall from grace. Twice. Back then, I thought the worst pain was the betrayal. But I was wrong. The real pain was accepting that sometimes love isn't enough to fix what someone else broke inside themselves. Claire broke us. Then she broke herself. I gave her a second chance, not out of weakness, but because I wanted to believe in the person she used to be. But you can't save someone who's still chasing their own destruction. And Raymond? He was never a genius. He was just a predator in tweed and glasses. I've changed since then. Not bitter. Not jaded. Just awake. I've learned that silence is its own power. That walking away can be louder than any revenge. That dignity leaves a deeper scar than rage ever will. And most of all, I learned to rebuild, piece by piece. I met someone recently. She knows the whole story. Didn't flinch when I told her about the scandal, the therapy, the betrayal. She just looked me in the eye and said, "You survived hell. You don't need to apologize for the burns." That was the first time I felt like I could actually breathe again. As for Claire, she vanished from my world like a ghost who finally understood she wasn't welcome anymore. I used to wonder if she ever truly loved me, if she regretted anything beyond getting caught, but now I don't care because her regret isn't my closure, my peace is. And to anyone watching this, if you've ever been betrayed, manipulated, or made to feel like you were the crazy one, let this be your reminder. You are not weak for trusting. You are strong for surviving. And if they try to come back once the house they burned turns to ash, let them choke on the smoke alone. If this story hits you, like the video, comment, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because trust, once shattered, it should never be rebuilt by liars.